Well, as we re-examine our relations with systemic racism in this country, in order to fully understand the impact and damage it has done, we need to see if the calls for change have actually created change. According to a new report about Ontario's justice system recently released by the Canadian Association of Black Lawyers, jointly with Ryerson University's Faculty of Law and the University of Toronto, the answer is, well, very little. Let's start with this finding. Between 1994 and 2019, the perception of anti-Black discrimination within policing has remained constant among Black Toronto residents, and yet the calls for change, the promise for change, was echoed loud and clear. So the question is what happened? Joining me in our Realities of Racism panel, Sean Richard, former president of the Canadian Association of Black Lawyers, and Richard Miller with Keep Six. It's great to have you both on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Richard, I want to start. Well, I've got two Richards, of course, with me here. Sean, excuse me. Let me start with you first on this, with regards to the findings of this report. What exactly it showed here, Sean, and I guess your reaction to it.
There are general implications for both policing and our court system. What they found is when they asked participants how police treated Black people versus white people, 60% of white participants thought it was worse or much worse. 70% of Asians thought it was worse or much worse, and 80%, in fact, greater than 80% of Black participants thought that the police treated Black people worse than white people. When we look at the court system and the sentencing of people, the perception was also overwhelmingly 80% of Black people thought that a Black person would get a longer sentence than a white person for the same crime. Slightly more than half of the Asian participants thought a Black person would get a longer sentence, and it was split evenly between white participants as to whether or not a Black person would get a higher sentence. When you compare that to their perceptions of the Chinese person, 80% of white participants thought an Asian person would receive the same sentence as a white person. So there's a great disparity there. And what does that mean?
Yeah, there certainly is. And I mean, I guess, the question being is that, why? Richard, let's bring you in on the conversation as well. Are you surprised by these findings in terms of what you're hearing?
Not at all. These issues have been going on for the last 25 years. And there's been other statistic numbers that we've come across over the years that have brought these issues to life. But unfortunately, we haven't had our government to really step up to the plate and look at these issues and take accountability.
Let's bring this further into perspective here. Share me your experiences. Richard, let's start with you first.
Well, my experience is the fact that there has been a lot of corruption within our system itself. I've come across also the racism that's very big. You have a set of individual, what I've my own personal experience is that the fact that there has individual of the old boys club where their wrongdoing is covered up. And it's about time that our system is take accountability for their actions, but also for the corruption that goes on within the system itself, because more or less they are condoling it in a sense.
Sean, what are your thoughts here? Give us a sense of what your experiences has been like in a nutshell.
The experience is, unfortunately, things haven't gotten better over the last 25 years. When we look at the number of people who are held in custody before trial and after trial. In 1994, which is the first time the study was done, for white people, it was about the same. So if you're held in custody before trial, about the same number were held in custody after trial. It was at least twice greater for Black people who were held in custody before trial while they're innocent than afterwards. There are huge disparities. These are concrete statistics. We have no reason to believe that they've changed.
Having said that, then, Sean, what does this say then about the future of Black youth in Canada and what their experience has been, could potentially be?
I think there bright spots. If we look at stats from StatsCan, what you see is 94% of Black youth between the ages of 15 to 25 want post-secondary education. That's greater than any other group in Canada. Unfortunately, only 60% believe that it's attainable. So what we've got is a belief that education is a way forward. Unfortunately, there's a perception that it's not necessarily attainable for Black youth. And we see this, why? Because of higher suspension rates, expulsion rates, and streaming into applied and locally developed programs.
And Richard, you're trying to change that with Keep Six, the work that you're doing there. Talk to me a bit about that and how critical that is for Black youth.
It's very critical because at Keep Six, I have lived life experience and understand how difficult it is for these youth to come back out into society and be able to be sustainable, but also be able to move forward. You also have to remember the fact that there's trauma that these individuals are facing and have experienced. So be able to work with them and be able to get them stable jobs, but also education, and be able to give them that support that's needed. And that's where Keep Six, and I built Keep Six around that primarily because I've lived life experience and been able to relate to the challenges that these individuals faces trying to move forward in life.
I've just got about a minute or so left in our conversation. We need to have more time here, certainly. But before I let you gentlemen go, where do we go from here then? What kinds of conversations do we need to be having? Who needs to be having these conversations where we can go from, inquiry and study to actual real change, real action, where perhaps the conversation is very different the next time we look at this issue? Sean, let's start with you first.
We need a holistic response. It starts with education. We have to cut down the rates of suspensions and expulsions, and we have to make sure that children as young as junior kindergarten start to see post-secondary education as an option for them. We need targeted programs, and we need money at all levels, municipal, provincial, and federal. We also need to address all of the disparate health outcomes. Bottom line is there needs to be not only political will, but there needs to be money in place to support our communities.
Richard, your thoughts here? I've got about 40 seconds left.
We need to have members from the community at the table with the stakeholders to make changes, and also for them to understand the issues that's going on and how to get over these problems that these young people faces in the community. And also funding to be able to help the agencies that's in the community doing the work, but not able to have the funding to do the level of work that's needed to achieve the goal of helping these young people.
Yeah, certainly providing them the opportunities, as you say there, Sean, changing that perception, which is so critical to show them that there is